In this video, I'm going to give you the basics for drawing your own cartoons. This process will show you how to sketch forms with shapes, polishing with line art, and finally adding color along with shading and highlights. So the best tip I can give you straight away is to look at the things you draw in terms of shapes. Whether it's circles, rectangles, triangles, all drawing can be broken down to simpler shapes. Let me show you what I mean. Take me for example. If we take a deeper look inside, we can see oops, wrong setting. We can see my body is made of simple geometric shapes. The head, eyes, fingers, and feet are circles, and the body, arms, and legs are rectangles. Here's another. In my most recent video, I made an animation with Sonic the Hedgehog. If we take a look at his body, we can see spheres in the head, hands, and torso, cylinders for the arms and legs, and cubes for his feet. Almost all forms will contain one or more of these shapes. A practice I learned early on in my art journey was to trace over objects with the shapes that construct them. You should give this a shot too with some of your favorite characters. Try this many times to get a feel for this practice. This will carry you far with cartoons and just drawing in general, really. But I think I know you. You don't care about practice.
We in here talking about practice.
I got you. Just open up your favorite art program and let's get started. Even though I'm drawing with Paint Tool SI in this video, the things I show you here apply to any drawing application like Photoshop, Krita, or Clip Studio Paint. We can start by using simple shapes to construct our characters. I usually start with the head. With heads, I think it's a good practice to use construction lines to help build the face later on. It can also show the direction that our cartoon is looking. An easy and more streamlined approach to drawing your cartoons is to start with the stickman. Next, we start to give our stickman some volume. It helps a bit if you draw the hands and feet as shapes too. This tends to work pretty well with any pose we can think of. It's amazing all the practical uses a stickman has.
I believe there's a stickman in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble.
On the other hand, when making your own original cartoons, try to utilize shape language. Shape language is a concept used in art to show meaning based on shapes we are familiar with. For example, circles tend to give off a soft and welcoming appearance, while triangles give off a more unpredictable and dangerous look. I'll link a PDF I found detailing this a bit further in the description. I'll also do a few examples here for you in this video. Shape language does not set any definitive rules, just something to think about. Be as messy as you want in the early stages, as it can always be cleaned up later. Once you're happy with your shapes and figures, you'll have a good idea where your drawing is headed and can start sketching the fun stuff. Sketching is where our cartoon really starts to take shape. You want to lower the opacity of the layer with our shapes and create a new layer to sketch on. The drawing we just finished will serve as our guide. You can start to put in key details like fingers and muscle definition. Having a general knowledge of anatomy will get you far at this stage. Similar to shape language, facial expressions can really sell your character's personality. Don't be afraid to exaggerate the faces to accentuate your character's actions. These are cartoons after all. Also, you'll want to consider what the character is wearing. If you aren't the greatest artist, I recommend searching for clip art of the clothing you want your cartoon to have. You'll get simplified images, making them much easier to draw. When you're satisfied with your cartoon, to get a cleaner look, we can trace over our sketch on a new layer. You can turn off the shapes layer at this point. I use this opportunity to fix any gaps or overlapping lines. You should give it a try as well. If you struggle with making clean lines, don't sweat it. This is something you get better at the more you do it. We can then move on to the next part, which is coloring. There's multiple ways to go about coloring, so I'll show you the two that work for me. First, we have to turn off all layers except for our line layer. Afterward, we want to make a new layer for our colors. Keep the line layer on top so it displays over the colors we'll be adding. We'll use the lasso tool to outline our drawing. This takes a steady hand, so don't be afraid to outline in sections as opposed to doing it all at once. If you make a mistake, you can add to it by holding Shift or subtract from it by holding the Alt key. I think this works the same in most programs, but don't quote me on that. Moving on, when the drawing is outlined, make sure you're on the color layer. I like to get a huge brush and fill in everything. This will create a layer mask, which will help us color inside the lines. I use a neutral color like gray for this part. The other way to color that works well for simple drawings, like cartoons, is the magic wand. With it, we want to select all the areas in our document that are outside of our line art. Be sure to check for any small gaps in your cartoon while doing this. If you look at my selections, they stop close to where the lines start. This is good. Your results may vary based on the application and settings you're using. After we have all the areas highlighted that are empty space, we want to invert the selection so that we only color inside of our line art. Between these two selection methods, I tend towards the lasso tool. I think it's always better to have as much control over your drawing as possible. The magic wand is the quick and easy way, but the lasso tool requires more dexterity. You go with whichever method you like though. Afterward, we want to lock the opacity of the layer. Here's what happens with the lock, and here's without.
That's no good.
Now to add some color. The fill tool works pretty well here depending on the setting, but you can always color it by hand. I already have an idea of the colors I will use in mind, but if you aren't sure what colors to use, you can always try searching for color palettes online. I linked a couple of sites for this in the description. This video is more about the process and not the techniques. So you could technically stop here as your drawing easily meets cartoon standards. However, if you want to push just a little further, I'll show you how to do some simple shading and highlights as well. A lot of cartoons use flat colors, but there are a few that use some subtle shading. Look at SpongeBob here, for example. His edges are a bit darker, which gives a more three-dimensional presence on screen. An easy way to recreate this look digitally is to clip a layer on top of the layer you want to shade. Clipping will help stay inside the lines of your cartoon. I recommend coloring with a darker color of the ones we've already used, as well as setting the layer type to multiply. If the colors are too dark, you can adjust the opacity of the layer and see if it gives better results. The idea is to shade areas that will be further away. Until you study shading, a solid cheat to follow is to shade edges. For the head, shading works well around the eye sockets, just under the nose, under the lip, inside the ear, and under the neck. Very similar to Avatar. There's no set rule to this, so you can experiment with what looks good to you. As far as highlights, these tend to be placed on smooth or shiny surfaces. On a separate layer, we want to draw these on top of our cartoon. White is perfect for this. If you don't know what areas should be highlighted in your cartoon, you can never go wrong with putting some on the eyes. So, that's it. This is how you can go about drawing your own cartoons. Start with a simple foundation, and then you build your way up to the finished result. Thanks for watching. If this video was useful, leave a like and subscribe to my channel. It's the best way to be notified when I release more guides like this one. If you haven't already, you should check out my beginner tutorial on making animations. Then your cartoons can truly come to life. Feel free to comment with any questions or feedback you may have for me. Alright y'all, until next time. Later.